How's it going, everybody? Eric here from Psychic Vacuum, doing a little response video for Dennis over at Analog Archives. Um, Congratulations, Dennis, on hitting 2,000 subs. That's awesome. Well deserved. If you guys haven't checked out his channel, Analog Archives, awesome channel. He has tons of like OG press stuff from back in the 80s, 90s, lots of metal stuff, but some other stuff as well. And I've had the pleasure of being on a couple streams with Dennis as well. Super cool guy. So yeah, go support his channel. I'll say right now, sorry Dennis, squeaking in at the last minute here. Just one of those things where every time I planned to do it, something came up. So anyway, if this is too late, no worries. It's more about supporting Dennis's channel than the contest and whatever. So anyway, so his theme for this contest was 10 or more albums that are better, or sorry, sophomore albums that are better or at least as good as the debut. So I picked out about 15 here, so I'll try to get through them kind of fast, but I do want to start off with two that Dennis mentioned in his video, which absolutely have to be on my list. Coroner, Punishment for Decadence, and Autopsy, Mental Funeral. I mean, fantastic debuts from both bands, but these are just like, yeah, little step up for each band, I would say, but really close. Especially the Autopsy, it's like neck and neck for me, but anyway, yeah, both awesome, had to be on my list. But all right, start out with some Canadian thrash. Voivod with Roar from 86, I believe. War and Pain, their debut from 84. Awesome album. Just really kind of raw speed metal, kind of venomy, a little bit of Motorhead in there, especially the kind of bluesy leads and stuff. This one, they just like really, it's in the same vein, but it's even more intense and raw. And this is the first album where Away, their drummer, had double kicks, so it's a little bit faster, just, yeah, more intense, but still just fantastic. Raw, primitive thrash that's just, I mean, you can't stop banging your head to this stuff. Awesome. And continuing in that vein, Razor, Evil Invaders from 85, I think this was. Yeah, again, a really good debut. Executioner's Song, I think it was. And that one's more, it's very kind of speed metal, almost some more traditional metal and stuff in some of the melodies, and just not as balls out and crazy as this album is. I mean, from the moment this opens with Nowhere Fast, the instrumental, just, I mean, it's just crazy. It's super raw. Again, the guitar tone is like really muddy, but man, this album just rips the whole way through. Especially, I don't know, that the title song, Evil Invaders, super catchy, that main riff, but just awesome. Yeah, one of my favorite Canadian thrash bands for sure. So, Razor. All right, let's see. Keeping in a similar kind of vein, maybe some thrash-ish stuff, but Atheist, Unquestionable Presence from 90, I want to say 93. Could have been a little earlier, I don't know. Anyway, Piece of Time, the debut, awesome thrashy death metal with a little bit of technical influence here and there. I mean, that's one of the earlier kind of technical death metal albums, but this one, and that one's fantastic, by the way. But this one is just a step up in terms of technicality and just experimentation. I mean, there's tons of jazz influence on this album, and I mean, it just comes in kicks your ass and leaves. It's like 30 minutes or something, 32 maybe. Just amazing, fantastic musicianship from everybody on this. I don't know if I like it better than the debut, but it's right on par for sure. Both worth checking out for any fans of death metal, especially technical, proggy kind of stuff. Awesome. All right. We'll stick in the 90s here for a bit. Emperor, Anthems to the Vulcan at Dusk. I mean, what can you say about the first two Emperor albums that hasn't been said already? In the Nightside Eclipse is just a black metal classic, of course. Symphonic keyboards. One of the earlier bands to really put the keyboards in there prominently, but I mean, they made it work. It can go a little overboard, some of those bands with the keyboards and stuff in black metal, but I don't know. These guys just had a real knack for doing that. And I mean, to be able to pull that kind of stuff off when you're teenagers as well is just insane. But they followed it up with this a couple years later. That was 94. This is 97. And this is just, man, I think this might be my favorite black metal album of all time. It's hard to say. There's a lot of great ones, but this is just, it's technical, it's kind of proggy, kind of experimental, but it's just so intense still. I mean, the production as well is a little bit clearer than the debut, I would say, but still fairly raw. I mean, you don't lose any of that pure energy and just causticness from early second wave black metal that you kind of need in there. But man, just every song on here is amazing and just a masterpiece in my opinion. So again, you could argue which is better, but they're both fantastic. This is at least as good in my opinion. All right, another 90s one, My Dying Bride, Turn Loose the Swans. The debut album, As the Flower Withers, I want to say that was 92. This is 93, I believe. This one, I mean, the debut is great as well. Just super heavy. Definitely their most brutal album. And some fairly fast stuff on there in places too. Some just straight up old school death metal. But tons of doom on there as well. Could draw some parallels between that and Autopsy to an extent, or like the first Paradise Lost album for sure. This one though, they really kind of expand their songwriting, and Aaron starts doing the clean vocals, which I can definitely see would turn some people off for sure, because they are kind of weird. And I don't know, they just work for me. And the songwriting on here is just really great. I mean, especially, I want to say the Songless Bird, I think, is probably my favorite song on here. Just, so heavy. The way they shift tempos, it's not like they switch tempos, it's like they shift, if that makes sense. Like, it just kind of morphs in and out of these slow sections and mid-paced, super heavy riffing. And yeah, I don't know, I like the different moods you get on this album, especially with his vocals. The clean vocals, the kind of spoken word stuff he does, but this is the last album that they did for a little while with the death growls, and man, he was one of the better death metal vocalists back in the day, in my opinion. Yeah, just an awesome album. Check it out if you haven't. All right, couple more from the 90s. Tool with Anima. I mean, Undertow is great for what it is. It's more of kind of an alternative metal album, and this one still has a lot of elements of that. I always like this kind of lenticular CD cover on there. That's pretty cool. But yeah, they start really kind of going off the walls with their songwriting on this one, adding in a lot of kind of other elements, even just little sound effects and more interesting, more interesting percussion and stuff. And I think the songs are just more memorable on this one. I mean, you got the title track, of course, and Jimmy, Eulogy, 46 and 2. I mean, pretty much every song on here is great. I will say the one thing that maybe brings it down a little bit is all the interludes on here. It starts getting a little long. I think this is over an hour. It's like 65 minutes or something. So you could argue that. So maybe that it's on par about with Undertow, but I don't know. This one always gets more spins than Undertow for me. All right, last one from the 90s. Alice in Chains, Dirt. I mean, Facelift is absolutely fantastic as well, but I think this one is a little more consistent front to back. And man, just the high points on this album. Them Bones, Rooster, Dirt, Angry Chair, Down in a Hole, Wood. I mean, you can't argue with that. This is one of the best, I don't know, best rock albums of the 90s, in my opinion. I would argue that it's pretty much metal as well. They get lumped in with the whole grunge scene, but this is some heavy stuff, man. Love Jerry Cantrell's guitar playing. Love Lane's vocals, and the other guys in the band are no slouches either, of course. Just a classic. All right. A couple more modern ones here before we go back a ways in time. Queens of the Stone Age, Rated R. I just saw these guys last Tuesday, a week ago, live for the first time. Awesome show. And they pulled out a couple songs from this album as well. They did The Lost Art of Keeping a Secret and straight into Better Living Through Chemistry, which is one of my favorite songs of theirs. Anyway, yeah, the first album is great. I mean, you got classic songs on there like Regular John, Avon. Sorry, I guess I totally forgot to mention what years the last two were from, but I believe this is 2000 and the debut was 98. Yeah, these guys, I don't know, stoner rock, kind of desert rock, some people call them, but I don't know, they're just a great hard rock band, in my opinion. Little elements of metal here and there, and just super catchy songwriting, with just enough weirdness in there to keep me intrigued. Yeah, the first album, like I was saying, you got classic songs on there, Avon, Regular John, great songs all over the place, but this one is just more consistent, I would say, front to back. Yeah, just great songwriting throughout this, and yeah, awesome album. I don't know what else to say about it. All right, and a little bit of a connection here. The Mars Volta, Francis the Mute. So the drummer from this band, John Theodore, is in Queens of the Stone Age now, and he did an amazing drum solo and just killed it at that show. But anyway, fantastic drummer. This album, I don't know if I would say it's better than the debut. Deloused in the Comatorium, I believe that was 2001. I want to say this was 2003 or 4, maybe 2005 actually. That's what it says on the back here. Anyway, regardless, these guys are just insane. I mean, I guess you could call them prog rock, but there's a lot of that kind of post-hardcore stuff going on as well. These guys were in a band called At the Drive-In before this, and just tons of energy on this. The vocals are super high-pitched and just histrionic, which could be a sticking point for some people, but I don't mind them. Compared to the debut, this is maybe a little bit bloated. There's some songs on here that have some like just trippy ambient passages that kind of go on for, I don't know, 8 minutes at a time in places. So you could, and it ends up being, I think this album is like 75 minutes long or something, which, I don't know. I don't mind when an album is that long if it's interesting enough, and it's hard to pull that off, to be honest, but these guys do. The first album, I don't know, they're just right on par with each other. Just definitely my favorite 2 albums by the band, and yeah, it's hard to describe this stuff. So if you haven't heard this, just go listen to it, try it out. Might not be your thing, but who knows. All right, gonna go back in time here, I think, for the rest of my stack. Yep. All right, last CD of the pile, Rainbow Rising. I mean, what do you say about this that hasn't been said already? The first album, Richie Blackmore's Rainbow, is fantastic. I mean, Man on the Silver Mountain, just fantastic. I like that whole album quite a bit, but this is just a classic. I would say that the one track on here that I'm not too crazy about is Do You Close Your Eyes, but I mean, it's only 3 minutes, less than 3 minutes too. 1976, I should point out with this. I think the debut was 74 or so. Produced by Martin Birch, of course, just sounds amazing. Richie Blackmore's guitar work, Cozy Powell on drums, Dio, Ronnie James Dio. I mean, how do you go wrong with that? Tarot Woman, Run with the Wolf. Starstruck is decent too, but man, Stargazer and Light in the Black, just a couple of the best songs ever written, and just metal classics, of course. Just fantastic album. I gotta get this on vinyl someday. And speaking of vinyl, let's stay in the same year. This is kind of an obvious one. Judas Priest, Sad Wings of Destiny. Again, what do you even say about this? This is just a classic. The first album is good for what it is. It's more just kind of bluesy, hard rock with some metal elements in there. You know, you got songs like Run of the Mill and like Winter, the whole Winter Saga kind of thing on there. But this, I mean, front to back on here. Victim of Changes, The Ripper, Dreamer Deceiver, or Dreamer and Deceiver as it was supposed to be originally, till the label screwed up the song titles on the album. Tyrant, Genocide, Epitaph, and Island of Domination. I mean, every song on here just is fantastic. I don't know if I would say this is my favorite Priest album, but it's got to be top 5. Just fantastic, and such a massive influence on metal going forward. I mean, nobody was doing this kind of stuff in 76 hardly. Rainbow and Judas Priest and maybe kind of the Scorpions, but I don't know. Just fantastic, epic. Yeah, amazing album. And gonna do another obvious one here. I mean, again, what do you even say about this? I mean, just classic. Yeah, sure. I don't ever need to hear Paranoid again, and I don't know. Yeah, Iron Man is it's still a great song. I've heard that one way too many times too, but the rest of this album, especially War Pigs, I've heard of War Pigs a million times too, but man, it never gets old. Planet Caravan, I love, to be honest. Electric Funeral, so heavy. That wah in that riff. Hand of Doom, Rat Salad, Fairies Wear Boots. I mean, one of the earliest, like, just full-on heavy metal albums, right? And just huge influence on stoner metal, doom metal, just heavy metal in general. Classic. If you somehow haven't heard those two, I don't know what you're doing, but check them out. And another obvious one, Iron Maiden, Killers. Man, I don't know. Iron Maiden was a band that it took me quite a while to get into, to be honest. And I think it comes down to Bruce Dickinson, a lot of it. I don't know. Bruce is a fantastic singer. I have a huge amount of respect for him, but I don't know. I've just never been the biggest fan of his voice. But that said, I have warmed up to most of the 80s stuff a lot over the last few years, and I love all that stuff now. But the first two albums are still my favorites, to be honest. And this one, I guess I forgot to compare the Sabbath to the debut. It's heavier consistently all the way through. The first album is great, but yeah, just masterpiece. And then this one, yeah, again, first album is fantastic. This one, I would probably put them neck and neck, to be honest. I mean, The Ides of March, Wrathchild, Murders in the Rue Morgue, Another Life, Genghis Khan, Innocent Exile, Killers, Twilight Zone, Prodigal Son, Purgatory, and Drifter. I think the track listing might have been a little bit different on the UK pressing, but Clive Burr's drumming, the twin guitars, and yeah, Paul Di'Anno's vocals. He was never the greatest singer, but I don't know, it just fits with this music so well. And yeah, like I said, I would put this right beside the debut as maybe my two favorite Maiden albums. That's hard to pick, but probably still. All right. Sticking in the UK, gonna go back a little further. Jethro Tull with Stand Up. The first album, is bluesy, very bluesy, little bits of jazz on there. A lot of instrumentals on that album. It's good for what it is, but it doesn't really sound like Jethro Tull as they would, their sound as they would continue forward. This is where they really solidify that sound. First album with Martin Barre on guitar. Man, he just kills it. Fantastic riffing all over this album. This is pretty heavy. This is 1969. It's not metal, but man, some of the riffs on this album are pretty heavy, and just great songwriting all over this thing. A New Day Yesterday as an opener, just fantastic. Back to the Family. I love how that one kind of flips back and forth from quiet to loud. Look Into the Sun is just a beautiful kind of ballad almost. Nothing is Easy, another heavy bluesy one. We Used to Know. Reasons for Waiting is another kind of acoustic one. And then For a Thousand Mothers is another bruiser to finish out. Just fantastic front to back. Pretty much perfect album in my opinion. Yeah, check it out if you haven't. Sticking in England, Atomic Rooster. This band is notorious for, I gotta get a different copy of this. This cover is cool, but I would like to have the original UK cover. Yeah, these guys are interesting. You had this one, right? This is their second album. Yeah, I thought I screwed up for a second there. Sorry about that. Anyway, first album had Carl Palmer on drums. Went to go on to ELP. But you have Vincent Crane on here on Hammond organ. Man, the organ on this album is just so heavy. He came from the crazy world of Arthur Brown. You got John Ducan on guitar as well. Their first album, if I'm not mistaken, I don't think it even had guitar on it, but it's still a great album. But this one is just heavier. This is just, yeah, for fans of Deep Purple and Uriah Heep and stuff like that, just awesome early 70s hard rock. I think this was 71 or 72. I think it was 71. Yeah, just super heavy guitar and organ drenched hard rock. I don't know. Just tons of great songs on here. Yeah, awesome album. Again, check it out if you haven't. And finally, we'll wrap it up in the States with Frank Zappa, Hot Rats. His first solo album was Lumpy Gravy. He was in the Mothers of Invention, of course. But Lumpy Gravy is kind of just weird and all over the place. I've only listened to it like once or twice, to be honest, and it didn't really resonate with me. Should probably go back to it, but man, this album rips. A lot of instrumentals on here. It's almost all instrumental except for Willie the Pimp, which has Captain Beefheart on vocals. But yeah, just, I don't know, I guess you could call this jazz rock, jazz fusion almost, but it's just super catchy songs, lots of jamming, crazy instrumentation on this. Musicianship is just fantastic, and you get tons of that just Zappa weirdness that I personally love. So yeah, another one. If you haven't checked that out, if that sounds like something you're into, definitely give it a listen. All right, so that took a little longer than I anticipated, but yeah. Anyway, there we are. Man, there's a ton of other great ones, but I didn't want to be too long-winded with this. Anyway, thanks to Dennis for just having an awesome channel and for doing this contest. Like I said, if I'm past the cutoff, no worries. But yeah, congratulations again on 2,000 subs. If you guys haven't seen Dennis's channel, go check it out. And thanks for watching. I'll see you guys soon.